Okay, so you played Ultimate Doom? Well, if not, then get to it! This week, instead of doing another Doom review, it's Total War! We'll first have a look at the Doom engine, and then we're comparing against Hexen on the Sega Saturn. Well, in round 2, Duke 3D takes on Quake, and we have a look at both their histories. Bang! Bang! Bang!
Come get some.
Doom vs Hexen. Now, just like the Knights episode, we're probably going to have to break this down a bit. Well, what's the biggest difference between them both? Well, that's the thing. You see, these two games are not all that different, as Hexen has used the same game engine that was built to run Doom, with only some minor changes made. Now, before I go into the changes, let's just quickly go through what the game engine is.
Now, with the ever-growing size of games, the game engine is used and reused more than ever these days in developments to save time and money. What they do is they load up everything besides the map. For instance, it loads up hit detection, the sound, the network, the movement, the physics, most importantly though, the graphics. It's what actually builds the 3D in Doom when you look at it, and the Doom engine does it quite cleverly. When dealing with Doom, we have to look back at the computers that were being used back in 1993-1994, and a lot of us still had 386s, so 3D recreation was close to impossible back then. But inside the ID Tech 1 Doom engine, they had a little trick up their sleeve.
When it came to rendering 3D as fast as you can move through an environment, some tricks had to be applied, or the PC just wouldn't run the game. The most notable would be how it managed 3D. This was also one of the major differences between Doom and Hexen.
Just for a minute, let's take a look at some development and see if we can figure this out, hey? Well, first we have a Doomish map here. We'll call this map Billy Bob. Now this map is basically how Doom programmers see levels, and Billy Bob is the furthest outside perimeter. Okay, remember that. We'll continue on, and this should start making sense.
Okay, so the Doom engine, otherwise known as ID Tech 1, was a clever system, as it would only render what you could see in 3D, thereby saving memory and processing power, and had a cool way of doing that. Okay, so let's take that perimeter. Let's name him Billy Bob. Let's put it down on a piece of paper as A, draw a little circle around it. Now if we, say, cut Billy Bob in half, we have two areas, B and C. Are you keeping up with us here? Okay, they branch off a sort of pair of legs. Now let's take B and cut that in two. Now that part's off as D and E.
Let's put that down on paper.
Okay, now we cut D in half, we have F and G. Okay, so it's sort of made a tree shape, yeah? Well, this is called a binary space partition. And if you take this tree from top-down view and turn it in front of you, it might seem a bit clearer how this system worked. As what it would do is draw the nearest thing first, which in turn would hide part of what's being drawn behind it, thereby saving the computer more space to easily and quickly draw the item behind that, again blocking out what's not needed to save space and keep the computer running at high speed. This trick was the key to making the game run on computers back then. So what the developers could do now is concentrate on using the Doom engine to make good maps to suit its limitations, e.g. some overlay issues like a room being above another, like in a two-story house.
Okay, so why I'm telling you all this is because this is the major difference between Hexen and Doom. Besides the story, weapons and maps, it was also slightly superior as it used a system of wall slide tricks to make doors open in a different way. Poly objects are walls which move within the game. Because the Doom engine uses the binary space partitioning system for rendering, it does not allow moving walls. Hexen's moving walls are actually one-sided lines, built somewhere else on the map and rendered at the desired start spot when the level is loaded. Gameplay.
I find the gameplay a lot more satisfying on Doom without a doubt. The release of a shotgun, compared to those magic blasts, just aren't in the same league. Although the engine is tweaked for Hexen for sharper graphics, it still didn't help the gameplay.
Graphics maps! With Hexen, we found the maps felt a little bit confusing and a little less structured, in our opinion, compared to Doom. There were a lot of places in levels that pretty much looked the same as anything else and were hard to reference back to whether or not you'd actually been there before. Whereas Doom is a lot more twisty and turny and keeps you running around in circles, which can be confusing, but the trail of bloody corpses you leave behind helps you know where you've been. Sound!
Well, Hexen isn't actually too bad in the sound department. Sadly, Doom on the Saturn is missing its classic soundtrack, probably after being so ashamed of their 32X attempt at it.
Weapons! Well, I mean, what can you say? This all comes back to gameplay, really. And I mean, FPS is all about the weapons, isn't it? Well, weapons and the maps. Oh, wait. There's one more thing. Controls!
Oh, they're not so great on the Saturn. And I think it's partly due to where the first-person shooters on consoles got its bad name from. With having to use a button to alter your look up and look down, it's a real pain. And probably all of these games' biggest downfall.